we told with you in the beginning that people were sent to camps by Article 58. Even if one man was sent to camp, his wife and children were also sent to camps, and they were called like members of the family or the enemies of the motherland. And if, for example, a woman was sent to camp being pregnant, she could give birth to a child and be with him till just 3-4 years. After this period, children were sent to orphanages, and there they were behaved against the parents. For some people, they even changed surnames. And after some period, children didn't want to talk with the parents because they know parents are the enemies. If the child was about 15 years old or older, usually they were sent to special camps for such young people, and there they also work like adult people. You can see here also letter, child to his mother, and translation of this letter. Hello dear mom, I am still alive, I am okay. I am studying on the second group and I live with the Aunt Yana. At 7 o'clock in the morning we have breakfast. After it we have some classes, and of course we have lunch, we have free time, we just play, running. But mom, please come back because I miss you and I love you. The main words from such letter was the first word, that child is still alive. That words gave to mothers strength and power to be in such conditions. But in that time a lot of children died. And if we will pay attention to display case, we can see here photo of the mother's cemetery. This cemetery was called in such way because there were buried only young children and their mothers. Even nowadays we have such a cemetery. It is not so far from Tolinka, and we try to keep it. On this display case we also have some photos of children. They didn't do anything wrong and they didn't say anything wrong, but only because of one reason, because of the parents. They were also in that system. People or children couldn't have good education, only 2-3 classes, that's all. They also couldn't work in good positions. They couldn't live in big towns, only small villages. So we can say that children lived in such limits because they were children of the enemies of the motherland. And we can go to another. Now we are in the hall which is dedicated to the economics of the Karlak, and you will see what people did in the camps. First diorama is dedicated to the view inside of the barracks. In such conditions prisoners lived. They hadn't anything special or non-specific. Such barracks, they were made with the help of such bricks which were called samag. Even nowadays such bricks are used by local people. If you will pay attention to the step, everywhere you will see animals. People made cattle breeding, agriculture. They also built mines, fabrics, and after they worked there. But we can repeat one more time that by Article 58 could be sent as usual local people, but also very famous and talented scientists or people. In that times, doesn't mean in what sphere you're working. And we can pay attention to the first display case, and you will see some photos of the works in fabrics and mines. And of course we can pay attention to the photo of the scientist Alexander Chizhevsky. He was in Karlak 13 years, and he worked in different spheres: biology, chemistry, physics, and also he worked under ironification. And he created a lamp which was called Lamp of Chizhevsky. Firstly, it was made for miners. People sitting under this lamp, they got ironification, or like purifying air, and after they didn't get ill. If you will pay attention to another photo, you will see here another scientist, Tsitelov and Palman. That people worked on the gasification of the coal, and they began to use, instead of liquid fuel, coal. People used everything what they have near them. We can pay attention to another display case, and we will talk about cattle breeding. You can see here also photo of the scientist Anna Ladina. She was also in Karlak, and she created new breed of white-headed Kazakh cow. This cow gave about 40 liters of milk per day. It was very huge, especially for that times. Cow was sent to Moscow to exhibition, and she got the first place. And because of it, woman got Stalin's prize, but she even didn't see any money, and managers didn't arrange for her any year. She stayed the whole period in Karlak. Another scientist created new breeds of sheep, for example. The weight of some sheep was about 200 kilograms. We can go to another two display cases, and we will talk about agriculture and irrigation system. You can see here also photos of the scientists. Mustavod, Fortunatov, academics, they were also in Karlak, and they invented new sorts of grains. If we will talk about irrigation system, everything what we have on the territory of Karaganda region, channels, dams, everything was made by prisoners of the Karlak. If, for example, you will pay attention to this display case, you will see photo of the forests. And you can see here differences in using of irrigation system. On the left side, they used new one. Also, if we will talk about scientists and their inventions, we should pay attention to this photo. You will see sunflower. The height of sunflower was about 3 meters. So you can imagine. If you will pay attention to this photo, you will see cabbage. Even nowadays, we use it, we eat it. And for example, if we will pay attention to this photo, you will see here a new sort of melons, number 200. But for nowadays, we don't have it. We can pay attention to one more diagram in this hall. You can see here view to the step, to the camp, and you can see barracks in which prisoners lived. You can see that people made their work, but on the background you can see also two soldiers. They were always near them and controlling. And we can go to another hall. And now we are in the hall where we can see a small installation of the laboratory. In such laboratory, scientists, prisoners worked. If you will pay attention to the stuff, to the instruments, you will see that everything is very simple, non-specific. But in spite of it, people made great inventions. If we will talk about conditions, we can say that prisoners, so scientists, had a little bit better conditions because they worked in their rooms. They didn't work, for example, on the ground, but they could have another limits. For example, scientist vendor could say that in a month or in some short time, people should make some inventions, and nobody cared. Could person do it or not? Here we have also on the table list of prisoners, scientists who were in Karlak, but of course it is not the whole list, only just information what we have for nowadays. And now we'll go to the basement, and there you will see installation of the prison. We can go. We will repeat one more time that we are in the building of the former administrative center. And the basement in that times was used for saving non-specific documents. But as we open here a museum, we try to show the whole system, and we try to show the conditions in which prisoners were. It doesn't mean that in this building, in these rooms, they had cells. It is only installation. If you will stop on one of the doors, they are similar. They were taken from the prison number 16 from Karaganda, and these doors are original from the beginning of 30s. You can see that they had such eye holes. They had also window for food. And now we will come into one room and you will see installation of the cards. So here you can see installation of the carcer or punishment cell. If person was in such cells, they, for example, had of course limits in food. Only 300-400 grams of bread and glass of water, that's all. If we will talk about sleeping, they slept or on the floor or they had wooden beds, but usually they were just brought by soldiers for special time. If we will talk about size of the cell, it was of course smaller, only 2 for 2 for one person, and they hadn't any light and heating. So to be in such cell for prisoner was punishment, and it was made only with one goal, that in the future person made or assign everything what they want. And we can go to another room. Here we have such big hall, and we can say that this hall was found during restoration of this building. We didn't do it by ourselves. We haven't official documents for what it was really used, but we can say that we try to show here a small installation of the punishment, which was called division hall, or it was called also zindar. On such halls, people or soldiers put prisoners. Per day they had only 100 grams of bread and a glass of water, that's all. Also soldiers could pour cold water on the ground, and in such bad conditions prisoners could be for some days. It was the worst punishment when usual carcer or punishment cell. And we can go to another room. Here you can see small installation of the men's cells, and you can see their conveniences and conditions. People slept on such wooden beds without anything. These two figures, they are just arrived, they on their own clothes. But if we will talk about prisoners, we can pay attention to the figure which is sitting near the table. We can say that prisoners had individual numbers, of course, and of course they had their own clothes. On the table only important stuff, cup, spoon, dish and spoon, that's all. But if we will talk about conveniences and size of the cells, it is not the real size. You can just try to divide this cell for two, for example, parts, and such cells were made for 15-20 people, but there could be about 30-40 people. So you can imagine that people hadn't anything, and even if they wanted to sleep, they slept on the floor or just sitting or changed each other. And we can go to another room. Here we can see installation of the infirmary or hospital, and we can say that they were in their times, but conditions were very simple. Usual beds, so if we will talk about medicine, it was only for the first aid. We can say that if person was in infirmary, they were only just for some days, and after they were returned back. But it doesn't mean that in Karlak they hadn't good doctors, professors. They were also, but they were like prisoners, and they lived in their spheres. And we can say that in Dolinka we have a hospital which was built in that time, so the Karlak, and in that time, so some doctors even made some surgeries. And we can go to another room. Here you can see installation of all the cabinets, all the investigator. In such cabinets they made interrogations. We can say that soldier, for example, brought here prisoner. He was sitting near. Usually they turn on the lamp, direct it to the eyes, and they start such interrogations. The main reason was only one: that person signed everything what managers or chiefs want. If, for example, person didn't do it firstly, we can say that they tried to make another punishment. They made interrogations for some days, for example 3-4, changed on only investigators, and during that period prisoners couldn't sit down, sleep, or eat, or doing something. Of course, after such period, after such conditions, prisoners just made everything what they need. You can pay attention, of course, to this photo. You will see here original photo with the real investigator. According to this photo, we made installation of this room, and this picture from 1937. And we can go to another room. Near investigator's office, they had such small rooms where they made personal files to prisoners. And of course, if person got their individual number, only that number he had. Nobody knows his real name. On this stand we have some photos of the prisoners. For example, we told with you about Alexander Chizhevsky. You can see his photos like being a prisoner. And of course we should pay attention to this photo of one girl. She was kidnapped by Germans in the times of the war, and when she was returned back to the territory of the Soviet Union, she was sent to camp by Article 58 for 10 years. Only because of one reason, that she was on the territory of the enemy of that times. She was also called like the enemy. And we can go to another room.